So, two candles. we begin. Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church in Providence, where we love beyond belief. As you can see, I am not Reverend Liz. Liz has COVID this morning. She wanted you all to know she was here last night, but she was feeling well. She kind of started to feel sick overnight and tested positive today. So do tend to yourselves accordingly. Either way, test or whatever you do. So today I will be standing in and reading her sermon and presenting her message, which I'm sure you'll all enjoy. It makes me be like a little hero because I can step in and do it, right? So good all the way around. This is the day we have been given, surprises and all. Let us live well into it. we're going to do that thing we do really well. We're going to warmly and robustly greet each other, but I'm turning things around a bit. I'm going to ask you to stand and look at the cameras and greet everybody at home, instead of trying to get you to do that later. Greet everybody at home first, and then have at it and greet each other far and wide. Good morning, everyone. Please stand. And everyone at home, good morning. Come on back, everyone. You'll want to grab your orders of service so that we might share in our chalice lighting.
So if you'll join me in reciting the words of this light burns also in our hearts, and it lights our path toward harmony, justice, and hope for all.
And for this morning's invocation, this conversation might sound a bit familiar to many. Just the other day, you said to me, accusatorily, well, I guess I don't have any corduroys anymore. 1, I did not throw out your pants. 2, I have never seen you wear corduroys. 3, it's June. This is to invoke the gods of communication, be they many. We all know, married and single alike, how sometimes we just evolve as we go and maybe need to check in and see how we're doing and re-communicate. Liz and I, when we marry couples, we don't do it unless we counsel them, and it's the number one thing we talk about, of course, is communication. So, lest you be worried about your corduroys, communicate. And now, we're going to share our covenant, the covenant of the members of this church. If you are not a member, you're welcome to read along also and share in these beautiful words with us. We, the members of the First Unitarian Church of Providence, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the light we know by many names, and with gratitude for our deep connection to each other and to the larger web of existence, covenant to walk together in our search for truth, seeking the paths of wisdom, compassion, and justice. Please rise as you are willing and able. We're going to sing from our teal hymnal, the little teal-colored one, number 1040, Hush.
There are times when I love being Unitarian Universalist, and there are times that for me are quintessential UU moments. Sometimes one amazing experience captures both sentiments, as was the case recently at a Board of Trustees meeting. A local outreach group had approached my church to see if our space was available to rent for a fundraising event it was planning. The group is a well-respected neighborhood organization that feeds the hungry. The planned fundraiser was a drag show. Like most churches, ours has a building policy. It says things like no smoking or drinking in the church, and it says things like all events must be in keeping with the mission and values of the church. However, it doesn't say a word about drag show fundraisers. Well, when in doubt in a democratically run congregation, the first step is to take it to the board. So the president of the congregation and I did so, and I'll be honest, I expected people to say, look, let's tell them that we respect their work, we affirm their mission, but a drag show is just not in keeping with our profile in the community and our dignity as a church. Nevertheless, we introduced the request and the discussion began. What is the mission of the organization, they asked. Would there be any drinking, they queried. Would the group provide security for the building, they wondered. And then came one of those I love being Unitarian Universalist moments. One of the board members, a straight white man with 2 kids, as I recall, raised his hand and asked without a touch of irony, is this going to be good professional drag or campy amateur drag? No sooner had he asked it than 2 other board members nodded their heads vigorously and seconded the question. Yeah, I've seen some phenomenal professional drag shows, one of them said. Will this be quality drag? Needless to say, we hosted the fundraiser. Moreover, we cut our rental costs and sent a representative to welcome them, lest we think we were just tolerating their presence and not embracing them. As to whether or not the show was quality professional drag, I cannot say because I'm not an expert. I will say, however, that the words quality professional drag will forever be dear to me as reminders of the infinitely affirming but discerning spirit of our laity. May we never cease to amaze one another.
Beautiful job, choir. Thank you. This is the time when this beloved community shares its joys and sorrows. And as a reminder, these are written in this book at the back of the sanctuary, where people light a candle from the candlestick gifted to us by our partner church in Santa Haja. This is Partner Church Sunday, so a little shout out to them. Candles are lit and shared here. A candle of joy this Partner Church Sunday, and joy for seeing all the decorative pillows scattered throughout the sanctuary, much like this kind of design. These were created by the Women's Alliance in support of our partner church. So much joy from Janet Downing Taylor. A candle for my insecurities. May I hold them as they turn to smoke. From Tom Getz, a candle for our partners across the pond. May they live in peace and prosper. A candle of prayer and hope for my sister battling mental illness. May she feel peace and the way forward for her and her family. And a double candle. There's some good news in the wind in this wintry mix. Bob and Barbara Westlake light two candles of joy for the birth of identical twin boys born on December 5th. Today they're about to leave the NICU. They were born early. So good luck to Amanda Westlake and her husband Aaron, and welcome to the world Julian and Lucas Westlake. I'd like us now to prepare our hearts and minds for meditation and prayer. I'd like to ask you to become fully present to the moment, to feel yourselves and your bodies right where they are. Remember, at the end of the meditation, we're going to share some silence. If you've lost someone this year, please do raise your hand or stand, and let's hold those people in silent tribute. Please take a deep breath with me. And again. And one more. This meditation is called Counsels, and it's by Marge Piercy. We must sit down and reason together. Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark, we could utter our feelings. In the dark, we could propose and describe and suggest. In the dark, we could not see who speaks, and only the words would say what they say. No one would speak more than twice. No one would speak less than once. Thus, saying what we feel and what we want, what we fear for ourselves and each other into the dark. Perhaps we could begin to listen. The women must learn to dare to speak. The men must learn to bother to listen. The women must learn to say, I think this is so. The men must learn to stop dancing solos on the ceiling. After each speaks, she or he will say a ritual phrase. It is not I who speaks, but the wind. Wind blows through me. Long after me is the wind. Amen. these are Reverend Liz's words, Liz's message. Just last week, we started one of our first Path to Membership series with 14 people signed up to participate. It was a great group of people with a lot of different journeys that have brought them all here now. In the first session, we always go over Unitarian and Universalist religious history as part of getting oriented to the UU community. And these sessions always start with the Protestant Reformation, which was generally a challenge that swept across Europe in the 1500s against the power, institutions, and theology of the Catholic Church. This led to many forms of Protestant faith, including Lutheran and Calvinist, Methodist, and Baptist, among the many. Unitarianism, which viewed the sacred as a unity, indivisible, and certainly not categorizable, as opposed to Trinitarianism, with its three clear designations for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Reformation also birthed Universalism, the idea that people were born saved and free of sin, as opposed to Calvinism, which believed that most people are born condemned to hell no matter what kind of life they live, no matter what they do to redeem themselves in this life for all of their days. They are stained by original sin and they're going to hell, period. So that's a lot of hell, especially for this pulpit. And we're all hearing enough of that starting right now. One of the great leaders and preachers during the Reformation was Francis David, a brilliant theologian and orator who founded the Unitarian Church in Transylvania. He was born in 1520 and rose eventually to the religious advisor to the first and only ever Unitarian king, who was gay. This will be important later. King John Sigismund, who lived from 1540 to 1571. During his reign, and influenced by Francis David and Unitarian ideals, he enacted the Edict of Torda. You've probably heard a lot about this. This was the proclamation of true religious tolerance and freedom throughout the land. From it, we get the quote, "We need not think alike to love alike." This was also a time of remarkable flowering for Unitarianism across Transylvania, a flowering that sowed lasting seeds, because even now, there are many Unitarian churches scattered throughout the towns and countryside of that region, of what was then part of Hungary and is now part of the modern state of Romania, but where they still speak Hungarian and retain a strong sense of their Hungarian heritage. The Unitarians in Transylvania are a part of a small and historically oppressed minority, ethically and religiously. They live mostly in rural areas with only a few churches in larger urban environments. They often sit in church segregated by gender, the women down, the men up, and there are few, very few women ministers. And there are differences in theology. Theirs is still very much traditionally Christian, and they embrace the value of religious freedom and tolerance through people with ties to other faiths, like Judaism, for instance. These other faiths like Jewish people, for example, are welcome to attend but cannot join a Unitarian church. We just had a visit from our own partner church in the small village of Santa Haja, welcoming their minister, Reverend Sabokes Kellerman, and his wife, Eniko. Eniko? Janet, tell me. Eniko. There you go, Eniko. I hope a lot of you got to meet them when they were here in October. Their president, Zoltan, was going to come also, but health issues prevented his being here. Reverend Kellerman has come before to visit us, and we've sent groups over to Transylvania to visit them over the years. I, meaning Reverend Liz, was on the trip the last time. We had a wonderful time visiting a number of Unitarian churches, learning the history of the faith and the people in that region, and spending a few days in the village with our partner congregants. They hosted us with great warmth and kindness. Last October, our devoted partner church team, led by Tom Getz and Betty Finn, along with Janet Downing-Taylor, Rick and Joan Richards, and others, did a fantastic job organizing 2 weeks of richly packed days of outings throughout southern New England, dinner parties at First U members' homes, and programs here at church to give us many opportunities to spend time together, including, of course, our partner church worship in October, at which Reverend Kellerman preached the sermon. Many partner church relationships took shape near the turn of the millennium after the UU Association established a partner church council in 1993 to help support Unitarian churches following the collapse of communism. Most, but not all, partnerships were with churches in Central Europe, including, of course, Transylvania. Their communities' financial circumstances are very different from ours here in the U.S. Some of their buildings have limited heat or plumbing, and villages are charming but also under-resourced, as are many small towns in rural parts of the United States, but much more so as Romania did not thrive under Russian leadership and is still economically impoverished. It's also often the case that people in rural settings hold more conservative views than those in urban environments. Again, as much is the same in our own country and elsewhere. This means that between Santa Haja, the Santa Haja Village Unitarian Church, and our Unitarian Church, there is a lot of difference, both in values and in circumstance, a lot of difference to contend with. The financial imbalance makes our support very impactful, an important gift we can share with our partner church. But it also makes for an inherent inequity in our relationship that can feel awkward at times, as money often can in friendships, especially when friendships aren't supposed to be about money in the first place. And we've received many gifts from Santa Haja over the years as well, not only their hosting when we've come to visit, but many actual presents, often featuring their beautiful wood carving, like the candle holder I mentioned in the back. Two of the largest are that candle holder and, in the back of the meeting house, a tall marker that graces the meditation garden right here next to the breezeway. 4 times a year, Reverend Kellerman and I exchange greetings on behalf of our church, including now, today, Partner Church Sunday. This year, I wrote his congregation this message, which Reverend Kelman has translated and shared this morning. Dear Sentahaja Unitarian Church family, warmest greetings on this annual celebration of our partner church relationship and in the midst of this cold winter. Our church is doing well. We have lost 9 members of the church this past fall, and we're still mourning their passing. But we're also feeling very fueled by our new strategic plan to be a stronger, more leading voice for human values, equity, justice, and compassion in the world. The church has a lot of plans and a lot of work ahead, but it feels good. We have our focus and direction that are very spiritually fulfilling and energizing. We hope this winter is not bringing hardship to you and your families, and that your people are well, and the church is always a source of goodness and blessings in your lives. You are often in our thoughts, especially this weekend when we focus, as always, on the lessons of Francis David and King John Sigismund with their compassion and respect for all people and faiths, and on the connection and opportunities between our 2 congregations. Very best wishes for a good year to all, Reverend Liz, on behalf of the First Unitarian Church of Providence. And then Sabolch sent his greeting to share with all of you. We wish you happiness and health. Greetings to everyone. We will have a great Partner Church Sunday. We will be together in our souls in love. So there are many years of connection and relationship, sharing and commitment that move us as a living bridge between our 2 very different congregations and contexts. And there are, of course, differences between us. It can be hard sometimes to know how to address them. I think perhaps because it's hard to figure out how we just haven't fully addressed things in depth, at least not as 2 institutions in relationship. We acknowledge the differences exist, but we don't really explore them, and when we leave them unaddressed, we also leave them unresolved between us. We're back to Reverend Liz. This began to come to a head back in 2019, some months before our last trip to Transylvania, when we learned that the Unitarian churches in Transylvania had accepted a massive financial gift in the neighborhood of $1 million from the administration of Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary. Prime Minister Orban has led his country on an increasingly authoritarian and discriminatory path, strongly allied with the power and positions of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Because of this, according to many measures and many different organizations and evaluations, Hungary is no longer a free or democratic country. One of the greatest forms of discrimination has been the mixing of European and non-European races and integrating non-Hungarian people into the nation of Hungary. Another has been against the human rights of LGBT plus people, which Prime Minister Orban has declared incompatible with Christian values. In 2020, Hungary ended any legal recognition of transgender people there, and Prime Minister Orban's party works continually to censor any LGBT plus positive content in media or education. According to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida's law regulating same-sex education in schools, commonly known as Don't Say Gay, was inspired by a similar Hungarian law passed in 2021. Prime Minister Orban cultivates a strong relationship with the Hungarian people who live in Transylvania, and the money they sent to the Unitarian congregations in Transylvania was contingent upon these congregations taking a position against the legalization of gay marriage in Romania. This was while there was major push in 2018-19 to legalize same-sex unions in Romania. The churches took the money and the position against gay marriage that went with it. Ultimately, none of Romania's proposed legislation in support of gay marriage or unions succeeded. When we learned of this back in 2019, the partner church team consulted particularly with a number of the LGBTQ members in our church to ask for their opinion and how to proceed. Overwhelmingly, the response was that we should continue the relationship in hopes that we might encourage the growth of a more accepting and positive LGBTQ attitude among our Santa Haja partners. They certainly know where we stand as a firmly, proudly, welcoming congregation, wholly and irrevocably committed to the equal belonging and rights of our many LGBTQ plus members and friends within our church and in society at large. They know also that we are actively and committedly working against racism within ourselves, our community, and in our society. What we didn't establish was specifically how we might engage to support the beliefs and values in our partner church relationship. In that 2019 trip, where we were so warmly hosted by Santa Haja, we mentioned these issues, and I preached about love and equality, but we didn't have an intentional conversation about them, and it was hard to know how to do it without being rude or ungrateful to those who were just hosting us, to those who have so little and were giving us so much of their generous hospitality. Individual members of partner church programs did raise justice issues, especially our concerns about LGBTQ rights, usually to Reverend Kellerman rather than the whole Santa Haja community, sometimes in response to something he or someone else said, sometimes because we felt we needed to raise it. But it pretty much ended there. And I think this dynamic has persisted since then. We are perceiving, maybe more than we used to, maybe because differences are becoming heightened around the world these days, gaps between us and our partner church in how we view democracy, Christianity, religion, anti-racism, the rights and place of LGBTQ people, the legitimacy of women as ministers, and much more. Our increasing awareness of these gaps between us means that we need to be more intentional in how we address them. Expressing goodwill and exchanging visits may not be enough by themselves, or maybe they are. But I've heard discomfort from a number of First U folks who want to make sure we're doing what we can in the name of love beyond belief and our identity as a welcoming congregation and an intentionally anti-racist community, to help advocate for the rights and belonging we believe in for all people. When Reverend Kellerman and Inoko were staying at our house for a weekend during their visit last fall, he expressed to me his sense that we are really not at all the same religion, that American Unitarian Universalism has become utterly different from the Transylvanian Unitarianism he believes in. This suggests that our bridge may need to be bigger or stronger or wider or something if we're to span the differences that are maybe growing or maybe just being revealed for what they always were. And this will take some care and some intention for sure if we're to work through it well. The challenges some First U folks are feeling now about our partnership are concerns that have risen across our denomination. Our partner church team most recently met with Reverend Morgan McLean from the Unitarian Universalist Association. Reverend McLean told them that the energy is fading in many U.S. partnerships. Of the 150 partnerships, approximately 50% have lost connections, and approximately 25% have regular communication at all. There have been questions raised in America about the quality of these relationships. In Transylvania, there are issues concerning disparity of financial support between the villages that have partners. There are concerns raised in Transylvania that the relatively moderate bishop will be replaced by a more conservative one in the next election. There's also tension between ministers who are younger with more conservative, older ministers. Younger ministers have to reflect their more conservative congregations in church votes, but they see the church changing as they replace their older ministers. So there are a lot of facets that require attention within the larger partner church movement, as well as our own partnership with Sentahaja. Reverend McLean had some suggestions for additional ways we can foster strength between our communities. Encourage youth exchanges. Get our young people in real contact with each other. Figure out how we can evaluate our differences and be mindful about them, but not ignore or paper over them. As she pointed out, in most interfaith work, the participants share responsibilities and projects in carefully distributed ways and gloss over the rest. Are we doing that? Can we do better? Are there topics we can explore together? Environmental issues, books that have versions in both Hungarian and English? This is a complex situation we're in with our Sentahaja friends. And it's not for me, Liz, to dictate how we respond to it. This isn't between me and Reverend Kellerman. It's between these two churches that have a relationship that transcends ministers. Your partnership was established long before I arrived. But it is for me, as your senior minister, to encourage us all to work on this intentionally and to find ways to make sure we are continuing to reflect our work and our beliefs within our relationship with our partner church. Maybe it's about new ways to connect with them programmatically, as Reverend McLean suggested. Maybe it's about finding new tools to help us talk about our differences as well as our friendship. In case new tools might help, we have options. I don't know if any of you have heard of LARA, L-A-R-A, a well-known series of conversation steps used in exchanges across differences. Listen, affirm, respond, ask. Another tool I'm sure you're familiar with is using I statements, when trying to talk across differences. You've probably heard this before. I feel blank when you blank because blank. What I'm hoping we might try is blank. Fill in the blank. What's most important is that 4 key elements are included somewhere in our communication. Identify and share our feelings and emotions about a situation. Our feelings and emotions. Identify and articulate the cause of those feelings. Provide lots of context and explanation for why these feelings are caused. The more, the better. Identify and articulate what our needs and desires are, what our ideal looks like, and frame it in a way that invites others into a conversation about how that might be achieved, what their role in that vision might be, and how their own interests might be satisfied as well. In other words, let's do way better than just wondering what happened to our corduroys. Let's do way better than the funny and poignant exchange that marked that invocation this morning. I know it's a lot to work out. It's a lot to work out for us on our end and on the partnership. Our partner church team plans to create some opportunities soon for us to work on these things, seeking ways we can learn to address some of these concerns going forward. Once we've done some reckoning together, there will still be a lot to navigate in engaging our partner church friends. But time and events have shown us that our differences seem to be growing, which means it's probably time for us to have to do this. We can't be one self in some circumstances and then a different self in other circumstances, even though it's awkward. A partnership profoundly complicated by differences in circumstance and wealth, geography, history, and culture. These things we're trying to get overcome, racism, sexism, homophobia, discrimination, and persecution, are everywhere, in all cultures, in every corner of the world, and we cannot name and contend them here within and around us and then let them go when we're elsewhere among those we care for halfway around the world. Perhaps if we can strengthen our relationship by growing our connections and at the same time begin to engage more meaningfully between our two churches about the differences between us in ways that are honest and loving, serious and respectful, we can nurture new depth and possibility into our partnership. I hope so. I believe this could be if we're willing to try, and if our partner church really tries as two faith communities together. Because I wholly agree with my dear friend Vanessa Southern in our reading this morning. I do believe in this faith that we can sometimes amaze ourselves and amaze each other in the most positive and beautiful ways. I devoutly hope that can be the next step in our relationship as a partner church together. Amen. we are going to hear hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. And you're welcome to sing, I hope you do, in the English version, but we're also going to have the Hungarian version. And Beth will tell you all about it.
In Hungarian, as well as we can. And then we're going to ask you to sing it with us. It's hymn 123 in English. So, one's through by the choir and one's through with us.
The good work of the First Unitarian Church in Providence is only possible with your great generosity. Whether we support other churches, other causes, or ourselves, everything we do happens with your generosity. Thank you so much for all that you give, all that you do, and all that you are.
We needed the exercise.
So I know when I was reading, you could hear that Rhode Island R coming out in my voice, lest you wonder that I'm really from Rhode Island. I was trying to move at a fair clip so we'd get out this afternoon. So here we go. Today's invitations. And just so you know, the deacons that are meeting right after this service had a change of location, and they'll be meeting in the choir room downstairs. So Steve, in the red coat, will be standing at the door. Follow him. He'll lead the way. Also, right after this service, please join the organ committee and other music ministry members for the congregational conversation after worship in the auditorium across the way. We're going to hear an in-depth report about the condition of our organ, hear about some possible options for next steps, and be able to ask questions of the expert who thoroughly inspected the instrument. I don't know if you know, Jonathan, are you here in worship? Here we go, see? Jonathan, what's your last name? Jonathan Ambrosino is our organ expert, and he has inspected the situation thoroughly and will be able to help you make informed choices about the future of the organ in the auditorium starting at noon. Grab a coffee and head that way. Saturday, March 2nd, not really that far away, is our second annual Commitment Drive Fellowship Dinner. Remember last year when we all got together and we all had themes on our tables and competed about who had the best decorations? That really good time will happen again on March 2nd, Saturday, March 2nd. And musicians, this comes from Beth. Have you signed up yet to perform in this year's Musicale? It is scheduled for April 13th. The deadline is February 29th. Yes, it's a leap year. David House, oh, it's not Beth. David House needs to know as soon as possible how many performers there will be. So contact him with questions and sign up. Well, Beth, I feel bad now. Can't I ask for Jesus Christ Superstar or something? There you go. Well, here we are. My friends, our benediction. May the living of our lives be our benediction and a blessing to all we touch. Amen.
Please join me in the words of our chalice extinguishing, which are